I've got a few buckets down here that came from inside, and this is probably a week or so's worth of food scraps, and I'm going to be layering it into this bin. We alternate the bins here, but we're using this one right now. So the first thing to do in lasagna layering is to make sure that you have browns. And when I say browns, I mean things like dried leaves, straw, sawdust, wood chips, and we usually use dried leaves here because they are abundant and I have a big stockpile of them. So there's always dried leaves in a container next to the compost bin, and the first thing to do is to take the leaves and make sure that you've got a good nest of material, nest of browns, so that it's higher on the sides, lower in the middle. And for this many food scraps, I'm going to do that all the way around. If I only had a bucket or 2 buckets, I might do it a quarter of the way or half of the way. But for this many food scraps, I'm going to make a full layer. So I'm covering the front. By doing this, there will be no food showing, which is an important management technique. So as you see in from the side, you don't see any of the rotting food scraps, but what you do see are these leaves. So I got the front and the sides and the back. Okay, so now we have a bin that's layered so that the leaves are higher on the side than the middle, and we're ready to deposit the food scraps. I just wanted to mention that the first layer at the bottom, the initial layer, are crisscrossed sticks and stalks. So that's the first layer, and then the next layer is the leaves or the browns, and then we go brown, green, brown, green. So we've just done a brown layer. Now it's time to do a green layer. That's our food scraps. So we've got a little bit of food scraps in here. Looks like an old pepper and some lettuce and some moldy orange rinds. So I will dump that in. And this one's from upstairs next to the coffee machine, so I'm sure we're going to have a lot of coffee grounds in here. Yep, coffee grounds and paper towels, and that looks like pear cores and some moldy stuff on the bottom. We'll dump that in next. Now usually on the bottom we'll put some kind of paper towel or paper so that when I go to dump, it all comes out at once in one smooth motion instead of being stuck to the bottom. This one came from room B, and they've had cooking classes in there, and I'm sure there's a lot of cooking prep stuff. So I will dump this in here. And when I'm dumping, I'm shooting to dump not on the sides but more towards the middle so that I keep that no food showing. The bottom, it gets a little gloopy sometimes, so I stay back so I don't get splattered or anything, which is good. Alright, 3 down, 1 to go. And we've got lots of spoiled produce and other things like that. Dump that in. Alright. And that's 3 buckets or so food scraps. Next thing I want to do is, now that the greens are in, I don't want them all in a big pile like that. Remember, we're going for bowls with our browns, not domes. So I don't want it higher in the middle, lower on the sides. I want it lower in the middle, higher on the sides, and then a layer of greens in the middle. So what I do is I just find a stick and take the stick, and you can use a shovel too, and just spread these greens out so it makes a nice thin layer, no more than a couple of inches thick. in any one place, but I'm spreading it out so it doesn't touch the sides of the bin. It's more towards the middle, but spread out. Okay, so got my layer of browns, I've got my spread out layer of greens, and then the last layer is browns, so that no food's showing. You can't see food from the side, the top, or the bottom, and all you can see is leaves. So, cover it up. And I try and cover with about as thick of a layer of greens that I put on, so no more than a couple of inches in any one place. I do the same with the browns. And voila, I'm almost done. Last thing to do is to wash out the buckets. And what I like to do is I like to give them just a quick rinse out here to get most of the food material out of the bucket. And then I'll take them inside later and I'll do a more thorough cleaning of them. So, wash that one. And what's nice to do after you layer up your bin like I just did is to give it some water. And it works great to rinse out the buckets right out here. I'll also get the lids a little bit too. And then once they're rinsed, just dump the rinse water right in the bin. Alright, and as long as I have the hose here, I'll give it a good water too. So I get all those dry browns nice and moist. If it's been dry out, I give it a good water. And the process will start out. And it'll start breaking down all those food scraps and leaves. Voila!